Welcome back to the channel, Goomy Gang. Hope all is well, hope you're staying safe and getting hyped for the new season that's coming out this week, or not, but today is a day that's going to be focused on speed, more specifically shotgun speeds in Warzone, and it's something that I never really touched on too much in past videos, so I wanted to take a glance at the speeds for the shotguns and find out which ones are the fastest and the most mobile. The results are actually kind of surprising for me. Now, before we get started, I want you to go down to the comments and let me know what you think the fastest shotgun is, or what the top 3 fastest shotguns are, or maybe what the slowest shotgun is that you think. It can be with attachments or without attachments, anything really. Just let me know what you think. I'm just curious what you think the rankings would look like if we compared all of them together, because I know for me, I was actually surprised by how they got ranked. Now, first of all, why is movement so important? Well, for a shotgun, movement is pretty essential for anyone who plans on, I don't know, moving. So if you're one of those guys who likes to sit in a corner or staircase with the JAK-12, go ahead and put on a 32 round mag, the biggest barrel you can, and the Marauder suppressor, because since you aren't moving, that's probably the best way to approach your questionable playstyle. But for the rest of us who move around, being quick helps close the gap between enemies more effectively. Not only this, but it helps get to cover quicker and easier. With guns like the Model 680 and the Hauer, you kind of have to weave in and out of cover, and if your movement speed is like a fly in molasses, then you're going to have a harder time surviving engagements than if you were a lot quicker. This is why builds that have shorter barrels, like the Model 680 build I showed last time, aren't always that bad in Warzone. In standard multiplayer, usually it's kind of a bad idea, but here, I don't know, it just seems to work out more than not for certain guns because of the nature of the time to kill and the map design. And again, if you still haven't tried that Model 680 build I recommended in my video a few weeks back, I suggest giving it a shot. If anything, go to Plunder and use it because it feels more like a pump action should. Trust me, it's a blast when you're not getting shot out of the sky by a Farah. So I think we can all agree that movement is really important for these guns. With that in mind, let's take a look at some shotgun movement speed and see which ones excel in this department. We're going to look at the base guns first, and then what they would look like with the fastest attachments they have, and then I'll look at some more particular shotguns with more normal builds with some attachments that may weigh them down. So what I did to test these speeds was I found a nice secluded spot of about 100 meters, 102 meters to be exact, and walked from point A to point B. These were measured at about 60 frames per second, which isn't as ideal as a faster frames per second, but it gets the job done and gives you a good general indicator. Since we're dealing with such large numbers and something like aim down sight speeds that are really small, there's a little bit more room to work with. Anyway, on to the numbers. So taking a look here, what do you think? These are ranked with the fastest first and then the slowest on the bottom. I think many of us probably expected the VLK Rogue and the Gallo to be near the top, but the Origin, pretty much on par with the Gallo surprisingly. The JAK-12 also not dead last, which is something I think a lot of us were probably expecting, but again, this is without attachments. And then we have the Streetsweeper, and oh boy, Raven just cannot give this guy a break. I mean, somewhere in the life cycle, this thing must have gotten a movement speed nerf because I don't remember it being this bad compared to the others, but there you go. Also, the pump actions are all pretty slow comparatively, and the 725 is the slowest of the bunch, tied with the Streetsweeper. Pretty weird, huh? Now, if you're curious, SMGs are pretty much going to be in the upper range of these guns, where some of them will be on par with the faster shotguns, and then they just get better from there. Now that we have an idea of how fast the base guns are, let's see just how fast we can make these bad boys. To do this, I found any attachment, any group of attachments that would help movement speed and never hurt it. So no large magazines or barrels, and no stock was something that was always used when available. Looking at this, of course the VLK Rogue is going to be the fastest. We have the 4-round mag, no stock, and that tiny little barrel equipped, all helping with movement speed. And then surprisingly, the Model 680 is the next best one. That build that I showed you guys a few weeks back, that's this one. Super fast and it feels great. The 725 also comes up from being tied to dead last with the sawed-off barrel and the stock build. Now, the Streetsweeper is still relatively low on the list, and the Gallo is being pretty much right between really fast and just fast, being just ever so slightly behind the Origin. The differences here are so small that you probably wouldn't even notice this in-game. But now that I showed you how slow the Streetsweeper is comparatively, you'll probably have this placebo effect and start to be like, wow, now that you mention it, it is really slow. So there you have it. These are the fastest shotgun builds that I could make, and ranking them all together. As I was saying though, the practicality of some of these builds isn't really ideal. I mean, the VLK Rogue having only 4 shots with a super small barrel and tons of recoil, you can just see why I wouldn't really recommend it. No matter how fast you move, it just doesn't work well against anybody really. But instead of going over every single shotgun and boring you, I took the 3 most popular ones, the Jak-12, the Streetsweeper, and the Gallo, and made probably the most solid and effective class, and I wanted to see how they fare with each other. For the Jak-12, the speed is normally about 4.683 meters per second, about 4.7-ish if we round up, but when you use the Marauder suppressor, which hurts movement speed, and the 20-round mag, along with the first barrel, which doesn't hurt our movement speed, we get a 9% decrease to our movement speed, and that is huge, and it's easily why the Jak-12 is often viewed as the slowest, because no one runs it bare. They always have a big barrel or suppressor and a big magazine, and this is without the largest barrel or the 32-round mag. If you rock those, oh boy, get ready to feel like you do in those dreams where you're technically running, but you only move like a centimeter at a time. Those are nightmares. Now, for the Streetsweeper and the Gallo, the most popular build I see people use is the reinforced heavy barrel, a big magazine, agency choke, no stock in the Ember sighting point. The thing about these builds is there is no real movement speed penalty per se. Instead, the reinforced heavy barrel slows our sprint speed only, and it hurts it by about 4% roughly if I round up. Overall, it's much more manageable than the 9% from the Jak-12's attachments, and honestly, if you switch out the Ember sighting point for one of the movement speed boosting flashlight attachments, you pretty much negate the downside of the reinforced heavy barrel. So while most modern warfare guns get really slow with attachments, these Cold War shotguns don't have many attachments that negatively affect speed overall. The Task Force barrel is the only barrel that affects it as a whole, and the magazine attachments don't seem to affect movement speed at all, which is nice, but it makes the modern warfare shotguns at a bit of a disadvantage in some aspects. And there you have it, my friends, the shotgun movement speeds explained and which ones are the fastest or the slowest. And I gotta say, it was pretty eye-opening in some aspects. The VLK Rogue is a monster at movement, but that Jak-12 with attachments, nah, I'm good, man, I'm good. Or maybe that's an idea for a different video. Also, if you have yet to try that Model 680 build, I really do encourage you to try it because the movement speed does make a difference, and having a really fast aim down sights time as well is also really good. And despite the minimal range, it's pretty nasty in some aspects, especially in Plunder. I know it's not really Battle Royale, but it's still really fun, and that's what we're all about here, is fun. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video, and what do you think of these movement speeds? Were there any that caught you off guard? Were you surprised by any? And go ahead and try some of these out. Try and make a really fast shotgun build, and let me know how it goes for you. The VLK Rogue one is hilariously fast, but man, it's really weak. I tried it in Plunder, and even in Plunder, it was kind of difficult to work with at times. Maybe I'll give it another shot for another video. But as always, I want to know your thoughts on it down below. So if you're new here, be sure to subscribe if you like Call of Duty or shotguns or just shotguns in general and FPS games. And with all that being said, I will see you guys in the next video.